Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and if you're new to my channel, I hope you stick around and consider subscribing. I put new videos every week, so there's always something new to watch here on the channel. And like the beginning of the clip you saw there, the Daimler broke down on the highway. If you follow me on social media such as Instagram, you saw that it broke down pretty much in the middle of the night. Well, it was dark. Actually, I was on my way to get my leg checked out. During the weekend, I had a really weird, odd pain going through my leg. And I called just a service on the weekend when, the normal sort of hospitals, the local ones aren't open. I called to ask, sort of what's going on and what I should do. And they wanted me to go to the emergency room because they were afraid it could be a blood clot or something. I just had a really weird pain going through my leg. So they told me just go to the hospital right away. That's what I did. Sadly, the car broke down. Thankfully, someone picked me up on the side of the road, drove me there, and really thankfully it wasn't that. It ended up being, I have damaged some part of the big nerve that goes basically all the way from your lower back down through your legs. So sometimes it feels very, very weird. I did get some better medication now, which does help with the pain. And otherwise, I'm just going to take it pretty easy for a couple of weeks. It was worse yesterday. Today it feels a little bit better. Hoping it's going to be good tomorrow as well, but I don't really know. It could be a long process or it could be pretty quick. I don't know, but that's why I canceled the live hangout on Monday, and I'm really sorry about that. But I was just in a lot of pain, and it would have been no fun at all. But I will reschedule that for next Monday, so I hope you guys will be able to join me then. So next Monday at 9 p.m. Central European time, I'll be live here on the channel. So I will post that again on the community tab. You can post questions there, and if you already did post questions on the last time, I will of course include those in the live hangout. But anyways, the Daimler did broke down, got it towed back home. It really just felt like I ran it out of fuel. It stumbled. All of it happened within 5 seconds. It stumbled 3 or 4 times, and it died, and then it would not restart, or it would start, but just ran a second or so, and it would die again. And it was raining in the middle of the night. I was on my way to the hospital. I did not have time to stand around and wait because they told me I needed to go. So you listen to the advice from a nurse if they tell you to go to the hospital. So I got the car towed home, and then the weird thing is, it seemed to fix itself because it's sort of running now. But over the past couple of days, I've been troubleshooting this issue, and that's what you're going to see right now. It's just a lot of troubleshooting, trying to figure out what the issue is, and not really sure if we found out what the issue is or not, but let's roll a tape and see if you guys maybe know what the issue could be. It's the next day, and here's where the tow truck left the car. After he left, I actually tried to crank it over, and it did start up. It was idling, a little rough, not as smooth as usually. I could sort of feel the engine in the base of my seat. The RPMs weren't fluctuating or anything, but definitely wasn't as smooth as possible. So, while trying to fall asleep, try to think of what it could be. So we have had quite a bit of rain. So one of my first thoughts were, okay, maybe I have fuel in the, water in the fuel. I did fill it up not that long ago from where I usually get gas. So I don't know, but as you can see, it was just raining. There's water standing here, but it's not excess amount here. So I think the drains are fine. If we open up here, you can see where the seal has been sealing, and it's still soft, and it doesn't really look wet or anything down there, so not sure about that, but at least I can't see water standing in here. But I thought we'd start it up now. Here sort of what it sounds like, see if it's running rough or not. Then I have picked up some pretty heavy duty water remover to remove water from fuel, and I thought that I could pour that in, let that sit for a while, and then let the car sit and idle, just go inside the house maybe for half an hour or so and see if it clears up and runs better. Also go in the back and sort of listen what the fuel pump sounds like. So let's just be some sort of simple troubleshooting. So either it's water in the fuel pump issue, or fuel pump relay issue. But I'll open up here so I can listen to the pump. It's in the tank, but the tank is behind here, so I should be able to hear it from back here. And let's just see if it fires into life. That was the fuel pump there, if you can hear that. Definitely sounds normal. Alright, battery was super low because it was on the highway with the hazards for a couple of hours. But alright, it is running pretty smoothly at the moment. Let's go back here. I will unclip my mic and try to hold it against the wall here and see if you guys can hear the fuel pump. I can hear it clearly and it sounds pretty much fine. Let's open up here. I mean, it was so dark yesterday and on the highway I couldn't really check anything at all. But it is definitely not as smooth as it usually is. I can sort of feel it shimmy a little bit. But it does respond to revs normally. I believe we have a fuel pump relay. Here's a fuel pump relay. And I'm just gonna wiggle it here to make sure nothing feels sort of loose or anything. No, it doesn't feel warm, doesn't feel loose. But if you can see here, I'll try and hold the camera still. You can see on the spring there, you can see how the whole thing is pretty much shimmying and definitely not running optimally. I did not get a check engine warning light, nothing like that. But I think I'll turn off the camera now. I'm just gonna let this thing run for a bit, see what happens. Or you know what? I'm gonna turn it off. Change my mind. I'll turn it off. We will pour some of this into the tank. Fuel system water remover and antifreeze. Let it sit for a bit and then run it for a while. And I might even go for a small little drive, just walking distance to my house, and we'll see what happens. It's the next day. I ended up pouring in the treatment in the fuel tank, and then my leg just started hurting really bad. It's better now, but yesterday was pretty bad, so I didn't do anything else with cars. However, since I was just sitting down inside, I kept doing some research, trying to figure out what it is, because it's really weird when you have an issue where it breaks down, and then when you come back, it's fine. So I thought we could do a couple things. We could have a look at the contacts on the fuel pump relay if those are bad. Then there is some cables that go beside the battery there, which come from the crank position sensor and all that. Make sure none of that is frayed. Crank position sensor is brand new. I don't think that is the issue, because I believe when that goes out you lose tacho signal, and my tacho kept working the whole time, and it would restart and it would just run a little slowly. So we can check this. Then we're going to let it run for a bit with the treatment in. And while that happens, I'm going to pull back all this trim back here, see if I can see the cables going up to the fuel pump. Maybe they're damaged or something. I don't really know. It's difficult when you can't really figure out what's going on, but let's just pull that relay up. And a tiny bit of green stuff. I mean, that's really not bad at all. But what I'm going to do is just spray this down a little bit. Spray this down as well. Let that sit for a little bit. I'll dry it out, put it back together, fire this thing up, see how it runs, and I think I'll mess with some cables in the engine base or jiggle connectors around, see if it stumbles or if anything happens. Let's fire it up. So that's just the first step. That's just the electric pump for the brakes. I'll wait for that to build so we can hear the fuel pump. And yeah, I don't know if you guys heard that, but fuel pump is priming. Alright, battery's still a little bit low from sitting on the highway with all the lights. I just ran it for a little bit yesterday, but fired straight up. It's idling fine. Nothing really that weird. Let's go have a look in the engine bay. Wiggle this. It's not really doing anything. And then down here, there's a bunch of cables. Just gonna sort of move it around. Nothing weird. Here are the new cables for the O2 sensor, but that's all fine. I would have gotten just a check engine light if that got unplugged. Up here is that cable for the sensor up front. I'm just going to move that a little bit, the crank position sensor. It's not doing anything either. It's just, oh, for fun, let's just wiggle some of the connections on the coil here. Just wiggle basically anything I can come across. The one thing I'm wondering is, what if for some reason this wasn't seated all the way down and it was making a bad connection? Because it really did feel like I was running out of fuel. So this might be a weird experiment, but if I pull that, the car should stop after a while. And that's exactly what it felt like when I was on the highway. So put that back in. That's really what it felt like. It felt like 3 of those little stumbles and then it was just dead. Okay. Firing the life right away. A little weird sound from the start of there, but yeah, that's very strange. And it's running pretty nice and smoothly. It's still ice cold, but it's running pretty well. Let's rev it up a bit. It's definitely not falling on its face or anything, like running out of fuel pressure. Now that it's gotten a few revs, it is actually picking up and running nicer and smoother now. Okay, let's turn it off and try one more thing. We'll turn it off and we'll have a look at the vacuum, go into fuel pressure regulator, make sure there's no fuel in there, so that's not leaking. So turn it off again. Let's see if I can pull that off with my fingers or if that's just completely stuck on there. I'm gonna get some pliers, get that off, and we'll have a look. Just got that hose off down here and not seeing any fuel down there. So basically there's a diaphragm in here, and if that leaks, then you'll get fuel out here, and that will then go into intake manifold. And that's the only supposed to be vacuum there. So at least that is not broken. Doesn't feel like I have the wrong fuel pressure. It's running really nicely otherwise. And you saw it start up pretty much right away when the pump was connected again, so it doesn't seem to be a fuel pressure issue. Of course, I could test the fuel pressure, but it feels kind of unnecessary right now with that it is running fine at the moment, because that's not something that comes and goes, fuel pressure. It's either good or it's bad. You might see that this is disconnected. It's been like that ever since I got the car. It's for the cruise control. I did connect it once and tried it out, and cruise control is definitely not working on this car. It doesn't hold a steady speed. It accelerates and decelerates. It's really, really weird. That's on the list of things, but way, way in the future. But I think next thing now, I'm just going to start it up again. I will let it run here for a bit, and then I'll pull the trim back in the boot and see if we can figure some of this out. Okay, I don't know why I'm going to give the battery a little bit of charge here. I don't know why the starter is making that little funny sound. But this thing did sit on the highway for 2 hours with hazards on and everything and lights on. And also I tried to start it quite a few times, so the battery's probably pretty low. It would need a good run or sit and charge. So I will let it run now, and then I will pull some of the trim in the back and see if I can see the power cables going up to the fuel pump. I removed the spare wheel, which I actually believe has never been taken out, because it still has some paint markings left on it. See if I can see them again. Yeah, you see there? I don't think it's ever been driven on. It's in very, very nice shape. And I'm being a little bit lazy. Just pulled some of the panel stuff back here. That blue thick wire with red over there and black, that connector is for, see, that's for the fuel pump. So I've already tried this PC. Pump is quiet, car's gonna die. Connect it back up, it's fine again. So we'll shut off the car, take that apart, make sure that is good and clean. Check out over here. But honestly, that was not as tight as I would want it to be. It's a very awkward camera angle back here, but I've cleaned these up with some contact cleaner. It did not really look dirty at all, but I have done that. And I've also tried that when they're pushed together, I can't get them apart. Need to push that, so they do seem to be making a good connection. I don't see anything frayed back here, or anything. That cable continues over there, so I might be able to see if I don't know if I can see a little bit more without removing some of the panel. Seems to be some more stuff going on over there. I may attempt to remove this whole panel back here. Just don't want to break any of these fasteners and things like that. I'll see if it's just a matter of removing the jack and then I can take it out. That probably is the case. I will try that, try to remove the whole panel, see if we can continue tracing that cable. Turns out that the jack was the only thing holding that panel in place. That's sort of fun thing of having a car you haven't had before. Haven't had an XJ40 before, so everything's a little new. And I was too lazy to go inside and check the manual. But yeah, jack out of the way, and that moves out of the way. Trunk or boot floor doesn't look too bad. There's a tiny bit of surface rust here, which I plan on treating, but everything is very, very solid on this car. This is pretty normal on these cars. They're not 100% watertight. See here, there's some condensation here. I think all of this is pretty normal. But what I did was I reached up over here. So the fuel pump sits up there where my thumb is into the tank. There's the sender for the gauge on the dash. I just unplugged it, and this is what I was looking for. So if you remember that shop I was at with the Range Rover English Car Care, my good friend there, Steve, he's had a lot of these XJ40s and he's been servicing them since they were new. And he talked about he said there's a weird sort of taped splice up by the fuel tank. Have a look at that, because sometimes that's an issue. Don't know if this is exactly what he was talking about, but I'm going to do a little bit of research, then I'll be back and maybe have a look inside here. But this looks very nice and clean inside well, so I don't think there's a connection issue up there, but maybe that was an issue. And what I think I am going to do is take an extra zip tie around here, just make sure that is perfectly connected together. Took a knife and I opened this up, and it looks pretty good inside. Doesn't look burnt or anything. Just my friend Steve, who said that he's seen cars where this was burnt up inside, causing a bad connection to the fuel pump. I did that little nick there, but that was already exposed. So I'm gonna put some black electrical tape over that, cover this all back up, hook it back together, and then I think that's it for now. This is one of those issues where I think you gotta take a little bit of a step back and sort of try and figure it out. It's gonna be a little late here soon, so I think I'll button all this back up. Won't do any more testing right now. Then tomorrow I will pack some comfy shoes, some warm clothes, and I'll go for a drive when it's light outside. Won't go on the highway, but I'll go for a longer drive around my house, and we'll see how it behaves. Might even put a little bit of fuel in it and see if it was contaminated fuel, because even when it's running now, it's not as silky smooth before, but there's no check engine light. It's definitely not missing on a cylinder or anything like that. Like, it's running on all 6, but these engines are usually really, really silky smooth, and it's not as smooth as I remember. So maybe there was fuel contamination or something, because it was pretty much yeah, I'm trying to remember when I filled up. I'm trying to remember it. I think it was like a week ago. It's where I usually get fuel, but I mean, you never know. It's been raining, but I did check. It doesn't seem like this opens up yet. Doesn't seem like I have been getting any water down here. Could try one thing, maybe tomorrow, just pour some water here, make sure it drains. But I cleaned all the drains when I bought the car, and it hasn't been sitting outside under a tree or anything like that, and there was no debris in here, so don't think that is the issue. But All right, I'm going to sleep on it, and then we'll continue tomorrow, and hopefully we can find out what is going on. It's the next day on my lunch break, so I thought we'd try some more things here with the Daimler, or really I just want to try a test drive. Put everything back together yesterday, but I ended up being late. And now I put some comfy shoes on, I have a warm jacket, I have a hat as well, so I'm not going to drive that far away from my house, but I just want to be able to walk home. It's a pretty nice day outside, it's nice and sunny, so it won't be that bad if something were to happen. This turn lock is on. Okay, let's see if we can turn it on. I hear that fuel pump. Alright, fire straight up. And yeah, no warning lights. I mean, just parking light, brake, and seatbelt. So I'm going to get buckled up. I'll set up the camera, and then you'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll see how this little test drive goes. All ready to go for a test drive now. I also brought a test light along, just so I can quickly test if it dies. I can see if we got power to the fuel pump or if anything like that. But hopefully it's going to be fine. But it is very, very mysterious what is actually going on. All right. But it is charging as it should, and I checked that with a multimeter. That is correct. So all of that is fine. I have a quarter tank of gas now. Did fill up a week ago, so it's not old gas. Did put in, like we said, this stuff. So if there was any fuel, any contamination, any water, that will sort it out. I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but the fuel filter is brand new. I put that in right when I took the car off the road in October sometime. So, it's not even 1,000 kilometers on that filter. So that is brand new. The old one was very clean inside. I opened it up. So do not think that is the issue. But we're going to take some of my usual test drive routes out here. We're going to start with all the local roads here, basically just around my house today. I think I'm not going to go that far. I don't really trust the car at the moment, which is understandable. But I'll continue driving, and I'll be back with an update for you guys in a couple of minutes. What I've decided to do is drive basically laps around my house. There's this nice paved road here that goes pretty much around my house, and the farthest that'd be from my house is probably 3 kilometers or something, so that's definitely walkable. And these are all my neighbors, so I know most of them. So if anything were to happen, I could just knock on the door and be like, sorry, my car's sort of broken down outside your house. I'm gonna walk home and get some way to tow it out of here. So that's not going to be an issue. So pretty good test driving roads when you live in the middle of nowhere like I do. Then I do have another test drive road, which you've seen me on a few other times, which goes basically beyond this road where you go down the hill, and then there is a what used to be sort of like before the highway, what used to be the main road, which is a 80-90 kilometer hour road, but there's some good straight bits there where you can get up to, it's not allowed, but you can get up to highway speeds just to try things out, make sure everything's fine without actually having to merge onto a highway. It's a good place to test cars. But so far everything is good. We're up to temperature. Thermostat has opened. We're up at the end. Still charging. Still have oil pressure and everything. Nothing weird so far, but let's keep going. I'm about to go for another lap. Everything is still running well. However, this time I decided I'm going to lock it in second gear just to get the revs up a little bit more to match, highway speed revs. I think it'll be up about 2,500 RPMs or something. Lock in second gear, going about 40, 50 kilometers an hour. So yeah, that maybe will it will put a bigger strain on fuel supply and everything to the engine. So let's see if that makes any difference. Almost back at the house now, and I've done a couple of laps, and I think this is basically what I can do now without my neighbors thinking I am totally nuts for just driving around in circles. But I've been out here maybe 25 minutes or so, and no issues at all, not even a hint of a misfire, and nothing at all. So that's almost a little annoying. That I hate when you have this may be an intermittent issue, or it's a one-time thing. Maybe it actually was a fuel issue, and I'm not sure. It's weird, or just wiggling all those connections and cleaning up did help out. None of them looked very dirty at all, but maybe something maybe the relay for the fuel pump wasn't seated all the way down. It's quite easy to catch on that or knock on that when you're doing anything underneath the hood or something. But what I have noticed is that when you do lose power to the fuel pump, this thing stops pretty much right away. It doesn't even stutter, it just stops. So I think maybe I was losing, because it felt like a fuel issue, so maybe I was losing it intermittently and then I lost it altogether. So maybe it was a bad connection somewhere, or maybe it's something completely different. I have no idea really, but I hope you guys enjoyed following along this troubleshooting, even though I don't know if we found the issue or not. I do not think it's ignition related, just because of the way the tach was acting, because usually when you have an ignition issue, at least on these cars as well, you will see that the tach falls down, but it did not. It stayed up. It was up at high RPMs, basically being pulled along by the transmission, and it wasn't until I pulled over that it died down completely. Even though the engine had died before, it was still being the engine was still being spun around by the transmission. So I don't think that was the issue. The fuel pump sounds very healthy. It's very nice and quiet. We can see now we're almost at my house. We'll pull it up and put it in park here and let it idle and see if it's any smoother or not smoother than before. So that will be sort of the last little test here. All right. Okay, let it idle in gear here. It is very, very smooth. It was not that smooth when I was idling in gear. When I selected it from drive over into second, it was sort of misfiring a little bit or shaking a little bit. And drive there. I don't know. This is all very weird. I did have a little bit of intermittent, wouldn't call it rough running, but not running as smoothly as it usually does the day before. So maybe it actually was contaminated fuel. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm going to continue driving this thing, and we'll see what happens. I'm also going to fix those two little MOT things, because it has to go in for its recheck in a couple of days. So that's just the two small things, the light up front and the gator. So I'll do that in the next couple of days. Get this thing booked in again, even though I will probably bring this thing off the road for a little bit and go out and drive the XJ6 now that we don't have any snow on the roads, and this thing only has winter tires. I'm only allowed to drive on studded tires until I believe the 1st of April or so. So then this will be off the road, and then we'll have a look at the wheels, sort those out, and get new summer tires for this. But there are other projects that will come in front of that, like the XJ6, and also want to get the XJ12 out. So we'll see what happens, but it's a mystery for this thing. We'll see. I think it feels good now, but we'll never know. Hopefully I don't have to be towed again, but I won't take this car in the middle of the night for a while now until I can trust it, because if it's in the middle of the day, I can stand there and wait if it's a heat issue and it will start again. But let's just see if it fires back up again. Fires back up perfectly. So I don't know. Mystery continues. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. And I want to give a huge thanks to my followers over on Patreon for their continued support for the channel. Thank you very much. So until next time, I'm Adam. This was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.